Hi everyone, this is 4.3 Global Marketing, and this is where the course really starts to link to other parts. This is where Theme 4 starts to link to other parts of the course, in particular in this one, Theme 1, and in particular 1.3. So there's not a great deal of new content here. There's a few key terms you need to be aware of. I would imagine that this 4.3 video and the 4.4 video are going to be quite short by comparison to some of the others. We'll go through it anyway and see where we get to. So global marketing strategy. The first thing to be aware of is how businesses adapt their global marketing strategy. There are different approaches. We're going to look at three here. Before we do that though, before we look at the three new strategies, we need to just generally understand this concept of glocalization. So glocalization is any amendment we make to our marketing strategy that allows us to accommodate differing local needs. And that's a really important consideration there, because the three strategies that we look at approach this in different ways and at different levels. So the first is ethnocentric or ethnocentric. This is the domestic approach. This is basically where we make little to no attempt to adapt our marketing for the local markets. So this is where we believe that our product will be fine as it is, it'll be successful as it is, and there's a few reasons why this might potentially be the case. It could be, for example, if you take a brand that is very heavily based around its kind of national identity. So if you took, like, for example, a very British product, maybe like a Burberry or something like that, where the appeal is the fact that it's from a certain country, you wouldn't necessarily want to adapt that a huge amount, because you would be then in some respects taking away from its brand image. So an ethnocentric approach is where we don't really adapt our marketing at all. We kind of use the same marketing strategies wherever we go. This is obviously, in a perfect world, you'd all like to be in this situation, because it means that you save a lot of money in terms of cost. There's no need to adapt. There's no time taken to adapt. There's no cost in adapting and research and developing products. So this is potentially going to lead to the highest levels of profit margins. The polycentric approach is the opposite of this. This is the international approach, and this is where we adapt the marketing offer to suit the local market in which you're selling. And this is effectively that globalization on quite a large scale. So you might adapt your product, you might adapt your method of distribution. You may have to adapt your price. Obviously, it goes without saying that in terms of different countries, different levels of income will mean that price will have to be adapted. You may adapt your promotion, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through this. The geocentric approach is the mixed approach, and this is where you try and keep what you can that is ethnocentric. So, for example, you may keep the brand name, you may keep the brand identity, but you may tailor the products to different markets. And so there's a little bit of ethnocentric, there's a little bit of polycentric. So that geocentric approach is kind of the mixed approach. And that, I would imagine, is probably the most common one, because a lot of businesses will try and keep their international brand name, but they will make changes to their products to suit local markets. 4.3.2 focuses on niche markets. We're aware of what a niche market is from Theme 1. A niche market is where we target a specific range of people based on their demographics. The key thing here is that this is an easier opportunity in global markets because of the differences between different countries. Different countries have different cultures. We're going to talk about this in 4.3.3 a little bit as well. And so as a result, because there are so many different potential niches, global niche markets, some products can be mass market in some countries and niche in other countries. For example, you think about the consumption of alcohol in certain countries, that would make alcohol, or certainly a lot of alcohols, kind of more mass market products. But in other countries where, for a variety of different reasons, alcohol isn't as widely consumed, alcohol can be quite a niche market product. And so for some businesses, this can provide greater opportunity in different global markets due to these differences. There's some features to be aware of global niche markets. These niche markets can potentially be advantageous because they are specifically matched to the needs and wants of the market segment. And so in theory, if you adopt a market orientation approach and adapting your products, you can give the customers exactly what they want based on their local needs and their tastes and their wants. You hopefully will be able to provide tailored customer service. You will hopefully have an extra level of expertise in the product area. And these things can obviously lead to higher levels of quality, which can lead to high levels of differentiation. So we've got to understand how this links to the market and mix. The market mix, of course, product, price, promotion, and place. So let's go through these one by one and have a think about how these global niche markets link to these areas, these 4 Ps. In terms of product, we'll have that emphasis on quality. This could be, for example, luxury cars, watches, perfumes. This is going to match those features that we've just talked about: tailored customer service, levels of expertise. All of that should lead to levels of quality. In terms of price, potentially we are going to find it easier to charge a higher price for a quality niche market product than a more mass market product. That potentially could be of a benefit to us. Obviously, it goes without saying that it depends on the countries and their level of income and what have you. We have promotion. This could be the focus on brand image. In particular, the targeting the niche market and trying to kind of raise an awareness of the brand image that we're portraying with our promotion. And lastly, place. This depends on the country. You may use existing local dealers to get your products to the right customers. You may use online, depending on the infrastructure and the availability of online and e-commerce in those countries and how widespread that is. The key thing is that when we're targeting different countries, we may adapt our marketing mix in particular to hit these countries with the right kind of marketing mix. The final topic here is the cultural differences. So the first is we're going to look at just generally cultural differences in terms of cultural and social issues. Now, this is really important when a business is negotiating or when conducting business transactions. For example, in some parts of Asia, business cards are as important as what you would probably consider a handshake to be in the Western world. So instead of potentially shaking hands and that being a really kind of important part of kind of not negotiation, of course, it doesn't matter in negotiation, but in terms of kind of conduct. In certain countries, you are expected to exchange business cards, but not only exchange business cards, really kind of pay attention to business cards and almost kind of compliment the producers of them on their business cards. It's just one of those really important things. You're not supposed to just kind of take it and put it in your pocket. You're supposed to kind of study it and pay attention to it. And that's kind of important in those countries. In other countries, and it can be little things, like silly little things. Like, for example, in certain countries, it is considered rude to eat all of your food if you are being served a meal because it suggests to the person cooking that that they didn't provide enough food for you. In some countries, it would be almost insulting to not finish your meal because it suggests that you didn't like it. In some countries, they don't agree with the concept of tipping because they feel like it suggests that they need additional money to work to their best when actually they work to their best because of the pride in their job. So understanding these differences in culture can make a huge impact when negotiating or dealing with businesses within different countries. We also have to take into consideration the fact that tastes and trends are different, and these could be based around a huge range of factors. Religious or local traditional beliefs could be a factor in terms of taste and trend. I mentioned, for example, alcohol consumption. That could be a religious factor. We could talk about the consumption of meat and what have you. Taste and trends could just be a factor that leads to businesses potentially having to adapt their market mix because of to take into consideration those tastes and trends. Language is, of course, a barrier, and this can sometimes create some unfortunate miscommunications. And so understanding that language is really important. We probably get away with it more than most countries because English is the most commonly spoken second language. But obviously, it's, of course, important to make sure that if we are translating to other countries and we're communicating in other languages, we are doing it correctly. And then obviously that can sometimes lead to inappropriate communication. So we've got to be careful not to offend people of different cultures with our actions, with our messaging. Obviously, being aware of all those cultural differences is difficult, but it is a really important investment in time that businesses must make. So as I said, 4.3, not a great deal of new kind of content there. The main thing to kind of be aware of is those key terms in 4.3.1, making sure you know the difference between those three different approaches so that if one of them comes up in a question, it doesn't catch you out. As ever, have a look at the resources in the description. There's a bunch of other videos up on the channel to have a look at that will help you with your studies and with your revision for an exam if you're revising for an exam coming up. If you've got any questions, please do put them in the comments. I'll see you later.